Ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another edition
Suck my balls.
of Suck My Balls, a South Park review. Yeah, suck my balls.
Suck my balls.
Suck 'em.
Suck my balls.
Hold 'em.
Suck my balls.
Touch 'em.
Suck my balls.
Swaddle 'em.
Suck my balls.
Shave them if you're into it.
And, unstick them, because when you sit down, it sticks to your
Right.
uncomfortable position. You always have to readjust yourself. Anyway, Suck My Balls. Welcome back.
So I keep bringing up trimming them and stuff because I want that Manscaped money. Like they sponsor everyone.
That's right. You keep bringing it up. That's a good play. I appreciate it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Suck My Balls, a South Park review. I'm your host in the heat. I can't be beat. I'm your guy who's high with the air is dry. Your boy, M to the S to the G. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Suck My Balls Pod, South Park Pod on Facebook. And of course, linktr.ee/South Park Pod. I am not alone. First up, he's not here today, but well, of course, special shout out to the Mac Daddy, the SNC, the double OP. Scoop, scoopity, scoop, scoop, scoop. But this man, ladies and gentlemen, this man is a doctor. The doctor of thugonomics, punkonomics. He's a doctor of polyphonics. He's also a doctor of botonics and botany and love and lust and wonder. He is also your 2022 Red Rocks Day 1 South Park Trivia Champion. Ladies and gentlemen, he is a trivia god. Double J, Dirty Joe Vernola. What's up?
Yes, it is I, says me. Oh, not a whole hell of a lot is up. I'm up somehow.
Clean-faced, shaven.
Yeah, not by choice.
Clean-faced, shaven. Now he definitely represents his avatar.
Yes. Shout out to Kingsford and Ronsonall for making sure I was nice and clean shaven, and then Schick for finishing the job.
Schick. Well, that's
so cute.
That's pretty cute. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're back for another South Park review. Before we get started, just wanted a special shout out to all of our new listeners and subscribers that have been checking us out on the YouTubers, as our YouTube numbers have gone up exponentially since we've started releasing more just South Park related shorts. And we plan, of course, release shorts from our episode reviews as well. And I'll probably take some shorts from this episode that we review. There's no point in right now I've got the footage, so why not make some shorts? But ladies and gentlemen,
And
go ahead.
I will salute those shorts.
Oh, wow.
I salute your shorts, Matthew.
Wow.
We run, we jump, we swim and play. We row and go on trips. But the thing that lasts forever are our dear friendships.
Camp Wana.
We hold you in our hearts.
And when we think about you, it makes me wanna fart.
I appreciate that. That's funny. Interesting. Okay, camp. Wow, that's old. You pulled out
Yeah.
some 90s guts.
Worst SNES game ever.
Oh my God, guts is horrible. We're going off on a tangent here. This is
We haven't even left the station and we're already off the fucking rails.
This is a South Park podcast, ladies and gentlemen, and this is Suck My Balls, episode number 151, Mystery of the Urinal Deuce. And Joe Vernola is going to tell us all about the mystery of the Urinal Deuce. He's going to talk about the Hardy Boys, and I think the biggest thing what we'll talk about on this episode is, which the question still remains today, was 9/11 an inside job? Now, I want to point out before we start here that technically speaking, we are not making fun of 9/11. and we can't make fun of 9/11 until December 23rd, 2023, or December 19th, 2023. That's next year. Somebody did the math. I didn't click on the link, but somebody actually did the math by South Park standards. 22.3 years will be December 19th of 2023, and that is apparently when it is acceptable to make fun of 9/11.
And they're using the AIDS jokes as the basis of that.
Exactly. But we're also
just to be clear.
Right. So do you want to start this episode? We're not making light of anybody who died in 9/11. Obviously, we've got friends or family. We're going to be talking about the ridiculousness. Some people might connect dots to find conspiracies, as well as the real life questions that are presented in regards to, was 9/11 some sort of government instrumental false flag? Joe?
Absolutely full disclosure here. Like he was saying, we're not making fun of 9/11. We're not making fun of anything along those lines. That was my uncle was fortunate enough to survive and everything, but that was in fact the last fire he fought. So that is not something that I really joke about or anything like that. I mean, there were 343 or 344, depending on what count you want to use, firefighters who lost their lives that day. But that is really neither here nor there to this episode, and I'm more just trying to expound and back up what you're saying here. My uncle and everyone knows I wouldn't really joke about I will make 9/11 jokes, but there are some things I won't joke about. So
what is it? I mean, when we first started this show, right? We were on Hami Media Network, and the guy who owns that, Ben Hameen, he's a stand-up comedian. But one of his, as a wrestler, he portrays a Islamic terrorist, and he'll do that in his comedy stand-up. And one of his jokes he usually starts or end his show with is a knock-knock joke. Knock knock, who's there? 9/11. 9/11 who? You said you'd never forget, right? So like there's ways you can do it and make things that are funny, but he's not actually making fun of the event itself. So.
Right, yeah, and Ben is a great dude as well.
Right. Well, that's neither here nor there, ladies. But you can check out Hami Media Group if you're, especially I know there's probably still listeners. Hami Media Group. What's up, guys? So Joe, tell us about the mystery of the Urinal Deuce.
The mystery of the Urinal Deuce is the 9th episode of season 10 and 148th episode overall of South Park. It aired October 11th, 2006, and features the Hadley Boys. Yes, the Hadley Boys. The world's...
Just going to read it like the announcer voice the whole episode.
Oh, God, no.
Welcome back to another edition of the 1950s podcast.
The world's biggest conspiracy of all time. The world's biggest conspiracy is finally uncovered when Eric Cartman exposes the true culprit behind September 11th. Episode opens as many do. We are in the school, specifically inside Mrs. Garrison's class, and her class is interrupted by Mr. Mackey, who comes in, who is rip-roaring mad, quite possibly angrier than we've ever seen him up to this point, that someone has defecated in a urinal in the boys' restroom. And he takes this very seriously because just imagine you're walking up to the urinal, you're getting ready to bed, and there's Diet Loaf. Or I can't remember the exact commentary he gives, but it's just fantastic.
Okay? And you just see a big old brown rag doll lying up in the back of the urinal for everyone to see. Oh, you think that's funny, okay?
Exactly. And so the kids the boys especially, start finding it kind of mysterious, but they more so find it funny because of just how badly Mackie is going off about this.
Yeah.
And let's jump in.
All right, let's show that that opening scene here of when he asked the question of,
you all don't seem to understand how serious this is. Now, who made Dookie in the urinal?
We're gonna find out. Let's find. Well, that's what this episode is surrounding as well. So let's start there.
Boys, we have a very serious problem. I've just come from the men's restroom, and somebody went number 2 in the urinal.
What's a urinal? Wall toilet for peeing in.
And some jokester took a poop in it, okay? Now, I want whoever did it to come forward right now, and it will be less painful for everybody, okay?
Who would take a dump in the urinal? It's such a senseless crime. Mr. Mackey, I think you might want to entertain that this is some kind of conspiracy. Just like 9/11.
Oh, God, here we go again. 9/11 was not a conspiracy, fat ass.
Oh, really? Do you just believe everything you're told, Kyle?
Excuse me? Can we get back to the issue, please? You all don't seem to understand.
All right, we don't need to play that clip again. I just played it.
And like, I love how Mackie just like flippantly dismisses whatever you think about it. It's still one of the biggest tragedies in human history. And Mackie just like is so caught up in this shit in the urinal that he's like not even paying attention to any of the 9/11 shit. And it's just like, yo, no, y'all need to shut the fuck up and listen to me.
This whole episode, he's just so gung-ho on finding out who took a shit in the urinal. He's so upset about the fact that he came in one morning to work, went to go take a piss after not getting a cup of coffee, you know, and all of a sudden you just see a big old brown rag doll poached up in the back.
Right. And dude, it's really funny how seriously authority figures in general take this, because like I've got other Navy buddies from other ships that can attest to this. It happened while I was in A school. It happened while I was on the ship. Like if someone just like decides to drop a deuce in a urinal, it's the military like fucking stops everything until they find out who's doing this. You know, like I half the time expect them to bring in like SBUs, since you know they have all our DNA anyway, and just like check the shit that way and like see who. But fuck, like,
yeah, why would you take that risk if they have the DNA in your poop?
But like it's so funny how people in like, you know, they're like, you need to not. We're gonna find out who did this and blah blah. Like, you could just like, okay, guys, real funny, don't do it anymore, because like the bigger deal you make out of it, the more people are going to do it, because it's so fucking funny when you make a big deal out of it.
Right. And then you also, maybe somebody in their sick, twisted mind wants to be the serial urinal deuce dropper.
Yo, we called them the phantom shitter. Like they, like people get off on that. Like, when it was like, yeah,
like you guys are like lying in the barracks. The one guy who's there is the phantom shitter. Is like, yes, talk about me. I am the phantom shitter.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the episode of King of the Hill where like Dale Gribble just is like the masked smoker, and Joseph is like talking about how cool he is. There's just
I know what you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah, there's just someone in their rack that night. Like, yeah, that's me. I'm the phantom shitter.
Oh, all right. So as you mentioned, phantom shitter. Moving on. I'm not a phantom shitter, yes. Joe. Were you a phantom shitter?
No, I wasn't. But
shitter?
I wasn't. I knew who it was, and I kept my mouth shut because I thought it was fucking hilarious. And
did the phantom shitter ever get caught?
I believe they did.
Okay. Well, they eventually. I guess you could say they were. I guess you could say their crimes were eventually wiped away.
But it's like because and of course I kept my mouth shut, because the military, more so than anywhere, snitches get stitches.
Just get stitches.
Like it's prison rules in that motherfucker.
So. Right. So now, of course, as you know, Mr. Mackey came in, he's going to launch a full-scale investigation. Right, Joe?
Exactly. He launches a full-scale investigation, but he can't find any clues. So he decides to outsource and hire some contractors. And those contractors are known as the Hardley Boys, 2 young whippersnappers with a knack for solving mysteries, to assist Mackey. But in reality, the Hardley Boys are dumb as fuck and are following their boners, which they call clues.
I'm getting a raging clue.
Clue to find the evidence.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I'm so serious right now. Like my clue is so raging. Okay, let's follow your clue. Yeah, the whole joke on this is that they're making a pun of the fact that these guys are getting a boner.
Yeah.
Basically, what if I had to like visually think about it, the boys start every time they think about the event, they get an erection, and whatever direction their erection is pointing is the way they follow their clue in physical form.
They like shit play.
They like shit play.
I'm not kink shaming. It's 2022. They like shit play.
All right. Well, so yeah, as you mentioned, because of the fact that after Mr. Mackey called the police, you won't be happy when the police come, okay? Then yeah, they call in the Hardy Boys because they were like, "Oh, well, this case is too big for me." So stupid.
Yeah, right. It's literally like any other Hardy Boys novel if you ever read them as a child.
It's too big for me though. It's just a shitter in the
Yeah, right. Yeah.
For me, I think we better call in the Hardly Boys.
Hardy Boys.
The Hardly Boys. Two young whippersnappers with a knack for solving mysteries. The Hardly Boys in The Mystery of the Urinal Turd.
It's another Hardy Boys walking.
So that's it, Hardly Boys. We've got no leads and nobody admitting to the crime.
That sure is a mystery.
That's sure.
Yeah, it sounds super hard.
Super hard.
Whoever did it must have been angry with the school.
Oh.
Ooh. I think I'm getting a clue. Really? Yeah, this is totally giving me a clue right now. Oh, I'm starting to get a clue too. My clue's kind of pointing this way. Oh, yeah, no, I've got a total clue. I've still got a raging clue. My clue's pointing over there now. Oh, let's follow that clue.
I just like how nobody like questions their style of how they have a clue. Even later on, I'll show the clip with Randy, and Randy's like, "Godspeed." Like no one questions the fact that these guys are getting boners. They're just thinking the boners or the raging clues itself are what they're referring to. You know what I mean?
The Hardly Boys are probably the most competent police that South Park has.
Oh, okay.
So like I mean, we're talking about a guy who can't read in Bar Brady, or well, now refuses to read, but that's Ayn Rand's fault. You've got Harrison Yates, who according to his wife is a damn fine cop, but seems to be he's racist, and B seems to be just as dumb as Bar Brady. And then you have the Harley Boys who they're following their boners, but they seem to have actually solved some things before. So like when
you see, if it was the other way, it would be twisted that way, but his hand is twisted that way.
That way.
Oh, by God.
Studying computer generated. Oh God. So yeah, like, I mean, I would probably like if someone like, yo, these guys are following their boners, I'd be like, yeah, dude, it's fucked up, but they get shit done, so I'm not. Like it's like as long as they're not like doing anything fucking stupid or offensive and out of line with those sticks, like just let them do their thing. It's like medium.
Right. So after that, what happens after that, Joe?
So the Harley Boys are gathering evidence, but Cartman continues to ride this 9/11 conspiracy, comparing it to the incident in the urinal. He then goes on to say that 25% of all Americans believe that 9/11 was planned, which I believe is a fairly accurate number, especially 5 years after it had happened. But Stan and Kyle continue to dismiss the claims, more or less believing them, well, that means 1/4 of all Americans are retarded. And they compare Cartman they basically point out that Cartman is the 1 in 4, and like, well, you're fucking retarded, Cartman. So, and to prove his point, Cartman asks Butters, and Butters thinks it was planned by 9/11 and or planned by President Bush. Excuse that 9/11 was planned by President Bush, and that all the evidence points to the Jews being responsible, which, of course, being Cartman was where he was going to go with this all along.
Right.
And
That
so
and the Jews. Butters.
yeah, that and the Jews. And, you know, Cartman continues researching things and takes his opportunity in show and tell, like he does many times, to give a PowerPoint presentation showing that all his conspiracies are actually true by his math, and begins framing Kyle for it, drawing a picture of him floating in the sky next to the World Trade Center with a knife in his hand. But yeah, but now because of this, as we're going to see, all the classmates buy into Cartman's bullshit at this point.
Right. So there's a lot here, though. I want to like go kind of scene by scene because there's a lot to break down here. So first, let's start here with the boys in the hallway after that meeting. After class, and you referred to Butters and Cartman's interaction as well.
Did they find out who crapped in the urinal yet?
Not yet.
They aren't going to find out who did it. But they'll make up a scapegoat, send him to detention, and make us all believe it. It'll be 9/11 all over again.
Will you shut up about 9/11?
Kyle, why are you so afraid of the truth?
Because anybody who thinks 9/11 was a conspiracy is a retard.
Oh, really? Well, did you know that over 1/4 of people in America think that 9/11 was a conspiracy? Are you saying that 1/4 of Americans are retards?
Yes, I'm saying 1/4 of Americans are retards.
Yeah, at least 1/4.
Yeah, at least 1/4.
Let's take a test sample. There's 4 of us. You're a retard. That's 1/4.
There are so many people who know the truth, Kyle. Butters!
Hey, fellas!
Butters, do you think 9/11 was just a plot by some angry terrorists, or do you think there was some kind of cover-up?
Well, I heard that 9/11 was caused by President Bush.
Aha, you see?
Where did you hear that? From Eric.
I rest my case.
Butters, you don't really believe that, do you? Well, I mean, you never know. The government does some pretty spooky things. The government and the corporations headed by the Jews that carried out 9/11.
That's right.
God damn it! You see what happens when...
That's bad.
That's right, Betty.
Kind of apropos as we're recording this episode in October 2022, when Kanye West was canceled for calling out individuals who are in charge of large corporations and have the religious or cultural descent of Judaism or are Jewish itself. So kind of interesting that in this episode, 2006, that this long-running statement that people believe that there's evil Jewish corporate overlords running the world right now.
Honestly, that goes back centuries.
Well, yeah, it goes back to the Rothschilds and the people who ran Chase Bank and all that crap, right? So like that stigma has been there for hundreds, right? You said decades, 100 years at this point, a century.
Yeah, centuries plural. Like even in the 1800s, anti-Semitism was pretty.
I mean, because the thing is, the term Illuminati is not a made-up term. It came from a group of people that actually did like try and run a specific region, a group of people who ran banks and stuff like that.
Just like the Knights Templar and all that.
And if you don't believe that it's not happening now, then you might be myopic or naive to the situation because it's happening. It's just under a different name. Now, are they planning world deaths and stuff like that? I don't know. Maybe, could be, but that would be speculation. So I'm not going to sit here and say they are or they aren't. Moving on to the next scene here in the episode, as you referred to, this is one of my favorite scenes, one of my favorite musicals here, is Cartman's 9/11 song here. So let's go to that here really quick, because you mentioned as he's doing his research, that's how he does his research.
Is it wrong for me to ask questions? Is it wrong to seek the truth? I can't just blindly accept their version. I can't base my logic on proof. Almost all the evidence points one way, but
I love it.
And Gloria Stefan, need to know what really happened on 9/11. 11. What really happened on 9/11? Of course. It's so obvious. How did we not see it before?
So I really like that part with the song. I might actually clip that and just put that as a short on our.
Yeah, that is one of the better montages they've done in a while, and probably the best montage of that season.
So then he gets to show and tell, and as you mentioned, Cartman does what is going to be referred to later by Kyle in the same episode of the Fish Dicks, and that is Cartman does these mental gymnastics, right? But then he also does what conspiracy theorists do, and that is sometimes they can overtly connect things that aren't there. They put things together that don't go that in their mind makes sense. So because it makes sense in their mind, it's now connected and it now has to be factual when it's just blathering of your own mind.
Musical genius, breaded. Musical genius, but I'm not breaded.
I'm flaky. All right, so now let's go here to Cartman's presentation on his shocking presentation on the truth about 9/11. And I like how he puts the glasses on and shit here, so like it looks like
so he could
take them off.
Take them off, yeah.
Shocking PowerPoint report on the truth behind the 9/11 attacks.
Oh, Christ.
And he fucking
We are told
throws
to
them.
believe that the fire from the jet fuel melted the steel framing of the towers, which led to their collapse. But did you know jet fuel doesn't burn at high enough temperature to melt steel?
I mean, that is true.
We were told the Pentagon was hit by a hijacked plane as well. But now look at this photo of the Pentagon. The hole is not nearly big enough. And if a plane hit it, where's the rest of the plane?
That is still a good question to this day.
Whoa. So now the
Like
inevitable
Clyde.
question. If terrorists didn't cause 9/11, who did? Remember that there are in fact two towers.
Okay, here it comes.
2 minus 1 is
The
1.
math, it
1,
doesn't
1,
make sense.
11. 2 minus 1 is 1. 1, 1. And there are 9 members on Silverstein's board of directors. That's 911. 9/11. And take 2 minus 1 plus 9/11, and you get 12. Which leads us all to the mastermind of the 9/11 attacks. Kyle. Me? 12 contains the numbers 1 and 2, just like the toilet yesterday where somebody went number 2 instead of number 1. Add 1 and 2 with 9/11 and you get 914. Drop the 4 and it's 91. Exactly the score Kyle got on his spelling test 12 days after 9/11. Who had the most to gain from 9/11?
Kyle.
Who was nowhere to be found the morning the towers fell? Kyle. Who dropped a deuce in the urinal? Kyle. But probably the most damning of all is the evidence seen in this photo of Tower 2.
Of a picture.
When I zoomed in, I saw what first appeared to be a blur.
Through.
But when I computer enhanced it, you almost got away with it, you sneaky butthole.
It's so.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. So first off, I just want to comment a couple things. For Clyde, amazing, because even back here now in 2006, when this episode came out, they've already set the groundwork that Clyde is kind of a conspiracy theorist, which will eventually come to even more fruition in the post-COVID episodes.
In his shellfishness.
His shellfishness. So it's funny that they've already set some breadcrumbs here back in 2000.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, they don't melt steel beams, but they definitely will weaken them and shit. Never mind.
Well, that was what I was going to say. There's a lot of questions that have been brought up over the years that people have asked that are good questions to ask, right? For instance, the fact that if we just want to look at like just regular physics and I guess I'm not what's the word I'm looking for? I don't make buildings. What are those people called?
Engineers, architecture.
Architecture. Okay, I'm not an engineer.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm not an architect or an engineer. Okay, but I understand simple structure and just gravity, right? So like if a plane hits something at the top, it wouldn't make sense that it would implode at the bottom. So that question has always been there. Why did the whole planes come? Why did the whole buildings come down? Why didn't the top of it just float over? Like if a plane was to hit something at the top, then you would just expect the top to maybe be taken out or damage up there. So it was always that is a good question. Why did both buildings buildings all of a sudden implode and come down straight down. Why was it blown up? Was there insurance money involved? And they knew that something was going to happen. Like I said, do I feel like America did it? No. But did they know it was coming? Potentially. And there potentially could have been things set up in case and for the building to come down if it was attacked.
But they knew going back to the Clinton administration that there was an attack being planned. So
right, exactly. So, but they didn't know what it was. Right, exactly. So they knew that something was being planned. They didn't know what it was. Right. Bush had like a meeting with Saddam Hussein or something like that over the summer, like months prior to when the attack happened too, or something like that too. And or Osama bin Laden. I'm sorry, he had just had a meeting with him over the summer or something like that. So like there was plans in place. They knew that they were going to be attacked. Again, do I think that those actual planes brought down the towers? Not personally, but do I think it was a setup? No, I don't think so. But there's a lot of like you said, architectural and engineering questions that come into play where it's just like, why did the buildings go down like that? And then the Pentagon one is a great question too. There was no like found like actual huge debris of plane wreckage. It was just gone, like it disappeared. So there's a lot of weird questions surrounding it. But do I think it's like some elaborate conspiracy for the government to try and control us? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, there was a lot of things. I think that people will always say, don't look at what happens. Don't look at the distraction. Look what's going around when the distraction is happening, right? So what happened because of 9/11? Then we got what's it called? The
Patriot Act.
Patriot Act, exactly. The ability them to like basically, keep track of everything, right? So like,
yeah. Oh, so the Patriot Act.
So that's basically my root of this is never look at. A lot of times, don't look at the event or what's going on. That sometimes that can be a distraction. Look at what the surrounding aftermath of what it is.
Now that Kyle has been blamed for 9/11 and all the students in the class more or less believe Cartman, they're all avoiding Kyle like the plague. And obviously Sheila finds out about this and Sheila's gonna Sheila and what? But yeah. And it goes right to the PTA and like, this is garbage. You shouldn't be doing this. And then the parents are like at the PTA, well, wait, we don't know what happened with 9/11. It could have been this. It could have been that. It could have been an inside job. And it could be a conspiracy. And and it could have something to do with the urinal Deuce and everything else too.
Right, and of course, this was all, that would be basically Kyle comes home, walks in the house, and his mom's like, how was your day? And he's like, bad. Why bad? Well, everyone thinks I committed 9/11.
11. Yeah, but what?
Right, so then they hold that PTA meeting, as you mentioned, and you have what South Park alluded to earlier in a previous scene. You have 1/4 of the parents believe it was an inside job. Oh my God, here we go. What if 9/11 wasn't it?
An inside job.
Oh my God. All right. So
and isn't one of them Steven Stotch?
Yep, Steven Stotch is one of the ones like, oh my God. He doesn't like come up with the idea, but it's Randy though that it's like we have to be able to ask questions.
Right.
All right, so let's jump to that scene with the parents at the PTA meeting.
9/11. Yes, we need to go over it again in the classroom so they understand what really happened.
Well, what really happened?
There's
strong evidence that what we were told isn't the truth.
Fucking Skeeter.
That's right. Did you know there were explosions seen at the base of the towers? No.
Look, whatever you believe, the fact of the matter is somebody dropped a Duke in the school urinal, and there's still no explanation for that.
Mr. Mackey, there are more important things going on here.
More important? You aren't the one who had to walk into the boys' bathroom, okay, after having to wake up early. There's no coffee in the teacher's lounge, and then you walk into the bathroom just to find a big Duke laying there in the urinal, like it's laughing at you.
He's right. The turd could have been put in there to cover up 9/11.
No, I'm not saying they're related.
How do we know they're not? We need to be brave enough to ask questions. It's obvious that before we go any further, we need to find out who was behind 9/11 once and for all.
Who do they do-
Who
what-
else
what-
could
what
it have
el-
been? This is too big a
Big case
mystery
for
for me.
him.
I think we better call in the Hardley Boys.
Goddamn.
Oh no, not the goddamn.
The Hardley Boys, 2 young whippersnappers with
We don't need to listen to the Harley Boy entrance again. But yes, as you heard there in the clip, we need to be able to ask questions. But I think I'm starting to, now that we're analyzing the episode, I think I'm picking up on what Matt Stone and Trey Parker may have been trying to lay down here with this side story with Mr. Mackey and the Urinal Deuce. And that is, no matter what is going on in the world, if something affects you so much, so strongly, you don't give a shit about anybody else, right? I don't care if there's
Exactly.
a World War III going out there. I came in this morning and someone took a shit in the urinal and I had to see it, right? And whatever it is that triggered Mr. Mackey that led up to that, and the poop was the last thing that pushed him over the edge that day, he does not care about what else is going on. He's so narrow-minded on his own.
Yeah, he's
personal
so
issues.
laser focused.
He's not aware of what the surrounding impact of what's going on in the world at the moment right now. So I guess I'm just picking up on that
Right.
from the creators there.
Oh no, it's a good thing to pick up on. So now we cut to the next day, and Kyle seems to have a little bit of company in the form of the CIA. And Stan asks him why the CIA is spying on him. And it's basically the CIA is now buying in on Cartman's theory that Kyle was responsible for 9/11. But Kyle tells Stan, or Stan tells Kyle, rather, excuse me, that he's found a website that can prove Kyle is innocent of 9/11. And from there, they go to the webmaster of that website. God, that's such an old term, webmaster. I mean, it's still used in everything, but I just haven't heard it. And so,
I don't think I've heard the
but
term webmaster in so long. Like, I'm a webmaster.
right, yeah, they use like web designer, web, like
I'm chief and editor of blah 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 website.
I'm chief web designer for blah blah blah. Yeah, like you're no longer a webmaster.
Managing editor is what's used a lot.
Yeah. So, the managing editor of the 9/11 Truth website tells the boys that it is in fact the government being the ones responsible for 9/11 under a false flag operation. And if you don't know what false flag operations are, oh boy, that's another rabbit hole that we are not going to go down this episode.
We're not going to go down that episode, but I will say I could see why people would think that 9/11 might be a false flag based on the fact that we went into Iraq and didn't find weapons of mass destruction, and that's what George Bush said we were doing. So I get why people might have been connecting the dots. They're like, well, we already just did one false flag, so why wouldn't they do another one?
No, and I totally get, and yeah, I'm not going down that rabbit hole either. Like we said, we weren't. But yeah, if you don't know what a false flag operation is and how it has been confirmed to have been used in the past, like that's an awfully fun. Yeah, that's an awfully fun rabbit hole to go down once you're done
Start with the
listening
Bay
to
of
this
Pigs.
podcast.
Slip in Bay of Pigs false flag and start there, and it'll explain everything.
Yep. Yeah. Start with the cube. Yeah. Bay of Pigs, and then go from there. Have fun. Banana Republics are a good one to look into too.
Oh, okay. The banana.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're not going down that rabbit hole.
This is turning into a conspiracy podcast, right?
Right.
Then be like, hey, you want to come on my podcast and do it?
Right.
Anyway.
Like, no, we need to leave that to the horsemen. So, at this point, he tells him it was a false flag and gives Kyle 2 jars of anthrax, telling them that they are evidence of the conspiracy.
He's all nonchalant about it too.
Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, here's anthrax.
Well, he's like, here's the, and Kyle reads it, C01 blah blah blah. What is this? Oh, that's anthrax. Dude,
Yeah.
you can't be seen with this guy, Kyle.
Right. And as they're flipping out about being seen with the guy, that's when a SWAT team breaks in.
A SWAT team.
Yeah.
Air quotes.
So,
how long have we been recording? Anyway.
right. So, South Park is so the SWAT team special, which at this point I'm just going to use to specify special weapons and tactics and not refer to them as any kind of cop unit or anything like that. They were just like some elite motherfuckers that were sent in by whatever agency to take them. Meanwhile, Kyle is admitting to being the one to taking the shit in the urinals and everything.
No.
But
Clyde
can't be the one to do it.
Or you said Kyle though.
Oh no, I thought I said Clyde.
No, you said Kyle. You said Kyle.
Oh, my bad.
That's okay.
So Clyde is admitting to being, but
He wants to be cool. Yeah, he wants.
yeah,
to be
he's trying to be. He's
I
dude.
did.
He's trying to get some clout. He's on the Phantom shitter.
I took a shit. There's me.
Yeah, and so his parents go on.
You know what's interesting? You're going to talk about this is the fact that he can't take a shit. So he probably wanted to show people that I can take shits.
Right. People are probably thinking like, yo, have you ever seen Clyde take a shit? No, man, I don't. And that is because Clyde had a colostomy at the age of 5. Now,
Does that mean he walks around with the bag?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
He's got the bag. He's probably got like some kind of elastic bag that keeps it tight to him or something, so you can't like necessarily see it. Those things are a pain in the ass to dispose of and everything because legally they're medical waste and shit, and you can't just like put it in like. But
can't just throw it away. It sucks. You have to collect it and take it back to the hospital and
take it to the doctor or whatever, and like, or you could take it to a medical. They have like places where you can buy the bags. They'll intake your waste.
It's nasty, and we hope that it never happens to anyone.
And like sometimes you can have a colostomy sealed back up and everything, and like they can make they call it a J pouch or a J pocket, and they take everything, your remaining intestines, and make kind of a pseudocolon, a semicolon, I call it, out of that. Really interesting procedure. God damn, we are all over the fucking place today. But long story short, his parents tell Mackie like, yo, it can't be our kid. He uses a colostomy bag. He's had one almost half his life at this point.
So it kind of makes sense then at that point. Like I said, if you're Clyde, you want to be like, it's almost like, I wish I could take a shit. So like,
yeah,
like, I'm going to tell people I'm the one that did it.
Right. Like, and like, he's
sad.
like,
it's almost like little thing you take for granted, not being able to just take away their shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like just a little bit of normalcy. So while this is happening, we are meanwhile in Washington, D.C., the boys and the webmaster are at the White House and are being interviewed, talked to, whatever, by the president and his staff. He tells the boys that it is a conspiracy, that they are responsible, and he begins to hide everything and cover it up by shooting the webmaster, and that it was all to basically justify invading the Middle East to create an oil monopoly and make lots and lots of money. And now that the boys know, they have to be eliminated too. And George W. then tries to kill Stan and Kyle, but he misses and they begin to run like hell.
So let's go ahead and show some clips here of how some of this breaks down here with the boys first meeting up and then heading to the 9/11 truth guy, and then we'll show the DC thing.
And questioning me about you? I don't know, dude. It's like everyone's putting pieces together that aren't there. But why did you have to involve me? It's not my fault. All right, look. I've been doing a lot of research on the web, and I found an organization who says they can prove you weren't involved in 9/11. Really? Come on. We'll go out the back so they don't see you. There's just one thing I need to know before we go. You weren't responsible for 9/11, right?
I like Kyle's response. Dude.
Dude.
That's all I need to know.
That's all I needed.
That's such a good friend moment there. That's all I need.
Yeah.
All right, and then as you mentioned, they go and see the 9/11 guy here, the 9/11 truth guy.
Doesn't surprise me. More and more people are being blamed for 9/11 every day.
They are?
Yeah, it's a way of keeping people from seeing the real evidence.
Real evidence.
I know it seems crazy, but 9/11 was pulled off by our own government.
Really?
So they could gain support for attacking the Middle East.
What? No.
I know it's hard to believe.
Dude, why would the government attack its own buildings?
It's called the false flag policy. Make it look like the enemy has attacked you. Get all your citizens riled up and waving American flags. Then you're free to invade any country you want.
That's retarded.
And then because of this, as you mentioned, the Kyle, we pointed out, you talked about that scene really quick there with Kyle with the anthrax.
Someday we'll use it as evidence against them.
Stan, we can't be seen with this nut job.
Yeah, everybody busts in. And then, yes, now they're in DC.
Come on in, Mr. President.
Mr. President, my name is...
Shut up! You think we don't know your name? We know everything. We control everything. We've all worked very hard to keep our involvement in 9/11 a secret. But you just had to keep digging.
Really?
You won't get away with it. People know.
People? You mean sheeple?
We don't need to watch the whole scene because you kind of explained
Yeah.
it. He shoots the 9/11 truth guy as a false flag to the kids to make them think that this thing is real.
Right. And he uses terms like sheeple and all those other buzzwords throughout it. It's so great.
Before you get back to the format, though, because since we're talking about it, I want to just quickly show here just a school scene with Mr. Mackey and the janitor and talking about what would happen that someone came into school and left a dookie in the urinal.
Now, you might all think I've given up finding who crapped in the urinal, okay? And maybe you think it's a victimless crime. This is Mr. Venezuela, school janitor, okay? He's the person who has to clean up when some trickster drops a duke in the wrong toilet. Mr. Venezuela makes $6 an hour at best, okay? He's got 3 kids at home. He's got a car that barely works. He's got to clean up puke with sawdust, okay? Then he walks into the boys' room and sees a big, meaty chud staring him in the face. So when you crapped in that urinal, okay, you might as well have just dropped your pants and laid a turd right on Mr. Venezuela's head. Oh, you think it's funny, huh?
Mr. Mackey!
You might as well drop it off on here on Dookie's head.
Attention, this is Mr. Mackey. You're listening to the Suck My Balls podcast. Okay.
Joe, continue on.
So Kyle and Stan are on the run now. They have, you know what? I'm going to look up how far this is right now.
Oh, okay, yeah. So while Joe is looking this up, what Joe is referring to is at the end of this clip, Kyle and Stan escape the White House. They leave, and Kyle, of course, is questioning how the fuck did we get out of the White House this easy? And Joe is now gonna give us the details on how far and how fast they were able to get to their next destination.
I'm not even gonna go how fast they were able to get there, but they have a 1,746 mile journey from the White House to, I looked it up as Fairplay, Colorado, because we've more or less determined that's what South Park is. They're in Chicago now when they begin to question, how the hell, like you said, how were we able to get out so easy? They're at a McDonald's And that's when they see the webmaster is alive and breathing. They try to chase him down until the webmaster is again surrounded and again shot, this time seemingly for real. And the boys are once again taken by the man who shot the webmaster and takes the boys. And he brings them to his house. And we find out that he is the father of the Harley boys.
I just like the scene though. I just like the scene after he shoots the 9/11 truth guy. Come on, baby.
Yeah.
I was like, who the fuck are you? There's no time.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's great. Come with me if you. Who the fuck are good? There's no time. And then he's like, you find out he's the father of the Harley boys and that they've solved the conspiracy, or have all but solved the conspiracy, but there is one missing clue. And then that's when we find out that every conspiracy website on the internet is run by the government.
According to South Park.
According to South Park. And that both the conspiracies, that and the Urinal Deuce, are connected. And this is when Bush again appears out of the shadows and confesses that they weren't responsible for 9/11, but needed to look like they were.
Right. If people want to believe that the government is almighty and powerful, why shouldn't we let them believe that? Essentially.
Exactly.
If they want us to be their master control overlords, we'll be that for them. But there's one telltale thing there's a clue that we missed, actually, I want to point out now. At the very beginning of the episode, when Butters asked, what's a urinal? There was one person who answered that.
Yeah.
Explained what a urinal was, Joe.
Yes, he's like, yeah, it's a toilet on the wall. He's the one, that he drops his trowel for, lifts his shirt up. Loo, I got some apples.
Right. I guess I was trying to set you up.
Oh, yes.
Who was the guy that said that at the beginning of the episode, Joe?
Oh, yeah, it was Stan who told him.
Yeah, exactly. So
yes.
Stan's the one who dropped the
Yes.
Deuce.
Yeah, Stan was the phantom shitter, the Urinal Deuce. So, but Kyle asks Bush why they didn't just tell the people the truth about 9/11, and Bush replies, we did, but one out of 4 of all Americans are retarded. They might as well just believe the government. As you said, the government is all powerful and would willfully commit an attack. And at that point, the Harley Boys questions how everyone knew they were there. And this is when Stan is ready to kill Kyle and confesses that he was the one that dropped the Urinal Deuce and did not know it would be such a big deal to the school. And the reason he brought Kyle along was to make him believe the incident was a conspiracy by the government and that they controlled the website.
They were willing to take the blame.
Yes. And so basically everyone basically realizes now that the Al-Qaeda, not the Muslims, but Islamic extremists, Al-Qaeda, whatever you want to say, were the ones responsible for
So who really committed 9/11? What do you mean? It's a bunch of pissed off jihads.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Muslims. Sorry, not jihads. But pissed off Muslims.
Yeah, and everyone calls Kyle a retard for asking about that.
Yeah.
And so at this point, Stan has to receive his punishment, which is basically cleaning the urinal that he defecated in to hide his mistake, hide his shame, and meanwhile just cannot stop laughing while Mackie is yelling at him about dropping the deuce.
All right, so let's show 2 more clips here. I want to show the one where Mr. Mackey announces over the PA system that Clyde is not the guy, and he launches and he lists off all the different Dookie jokes And then let's like wrap up with the final clip here of the reveal that Stan is the one that dropped the douche.
The boys' bathroom is closed until further notice. Because one of you thought it would be a good idea to pull down your pants, okay? Hover your butt cheeks over the urinal and squeeze out a chocolate hot dog. Okay? You think that's funny, huh? Let me assure you, there is nothing funny about going up to a nice, clean, unsuspecting urinal, okay, dropping your pants and then turning around, squatting over that urinal, okay, maybe pulling your butt cheeks apart with your hands,
Pushing a fudge dragon.
and then laying out a big fudge dragon for all the world to see.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh yeah, that's real funny. I'm gonna catch this son of a bitch if it's the last thing I do.
He's so upset about it. He's like, I gotta catch this son of a bitch. All right, then let's go hear the shooting scene as I mentioned.
Help me!
Dude, we aren't going to kill you. Oh, God!
It isn't safe here, boys. Follow me.
Who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
There's no time. Come on.
And then, of course, we found out, as you mentioned, he's the Harley Boys' father.
Researching who went number 2 in the urinal at your school when they discovered something odd, which gave them a clue.
Gave us both a clue.
Both a clue.
That clue led them to a 9/11 conspiracy group party, where they got a lot more clues.
I was getting a clue like every 2 minutes. I got such a raging clue that I almost shot clue goo all over Joe.
Those
Clue
clues
goo.
pointed out that all the 9/11 conspiracy theories could be disproven.
Right, so then, of course, as you mentioned, we come in with Bush and now Stan.
Just one thing, Mr. President. How the devil did you know we were all here?
How come you couldn't just go home, dude? That's all we had to do. Stan! What the fuck? It was all planned out. You knew this whole time? Why? Because it was me. I'm the one who took a dump in the urinal. What? The stalls were full and I didn't want to miss recess. I didn't think it would turn into such a big deal. So you blamed the government?
And the government was more than willing to take the blame, so long as it made them look responsible for 9/11.
Nah.
Oh man, now everyone's gonna know. Why did the stupid Harley Boys have to be so good at solving mysteries? So wait. Stan took the dump in the urinal and he contacted the conspiracy website, but the conspiracy site was run by the government? Yeah. So then who was responsible for 9/11? What do you mean? A bunch of pissed off Muslims.
Yeah, what are you retarded?
All right, and as Joe mentioned there, that ends with Stan having to clean the urinal as Mr. Mackey makes some and makes him laugh. Ladies and gentlemen, that's your full recap there. That's going to be one crazy edit. We'll be right back on the other side with your trivia, pop culture, continuity, and more. We'll be
Constituity?
I'm all over the fucking place. Subscribe to Suck My Balls, a South Park review on Spotify, Apple's, iTunes, anywhere you want to download a podcast. Just type that in, subscribe to our feed. You'll get the latest, greatest episode each and every week. You can also listen to us on YouTube and go back and watch some videos or any of our library. It's all there. Suck My Balls, South Park review. We're still laughing from before the sponsor bump.
This podcast has been driven by Casey Jones.
Shout out to our sponsor provided by Spreaker. Do us a favor, head over to our YouTube as well. Subscribe. If you're on YouTube right now, hit that like and subscribe button. Helps out all the algorithms and crap. And, helps keeping us in your feed as well as in other people's feed who might like South Park. Let's start with some trivia. As I've mentioned before, I'm not your 2022 trivia champion. But there's a little bit of trivia, a little bit of pop culture, and a little bit of continuity. So at least we can make up for how long we went on the front half of this thing. Trivia. The website the webmaster owns, 911truth.org, actually is a real website. That's a real website, ladies and gentlemen. Dick Cheney shooting and missing in the presidential office when he tries to shoot Stan as they're running away is, of course, a reference to the hunting incident in which Dick actually shot somebody while he was hunting. I believe it was like his friend or something.
Face.
Yeah. The excessive reaction and investigation by Mr. Mackey over a student defecating in a urinal parodies an actual event in Trey's school. Apparently, this really happened to him.
I believe it.
And in some versions of this episode, George Bush has Trey's voice rather than the one more sounding like him. Here's some quick references culture. Several parts of this episode parody the movie The Game. And finally, the Hardly Boys are a parody of the novel series The Hardy Boys, which if you lived in New York, can't speak outside the world. The Hardy Boys are a popular, actually I don't know, not kids now, but they were, as we were kids, a very popular mystery novel series that kids would read from ages like, I don't know, 10 to 14, helped build like reading skills, but it was a mystery book. And finally, continuity here. George Bush has also appeared in Cartoon Wars Part 1, Cartoon Wars Part 2, and The Snook so far. And finally, in this episode, Starvin' Marvin in space, Kyle and Carmen argue about which one of them had crapped in the urinal, similar to this episode. Basically, they argued in the Starvin' Marvin space, similar to how they argued in this episode. So that's your references to pop culture, some continuity, and trivia. I'm going to go first. I'm going to tell you what I liked about this episode. Matt, what'd you like about this episode? All right, here's what I liked about this episode. I found this episode at the time of its initial airing, because I remember 2006, to be extremely hilarious, especially like when Cartman's big reveal about blaming Kyle. Who had the mouse again? Kyle. Who took that the night out of town? Kyle. Who made a Duke in the urinal? Kyle. But the most damning evidence of ours when I zoomed in here. So I think that's a funny part. The 9/11 song from Cartman is funny. The George Bush stuff, making him look like this evil overlord, sinister boss, but he's stupid enough to just leave his files about, and they let the kids get out of the White House. Let's be real. To try even get clearance to get in the White House you have to go through a lot of hoops. Okay.
Yeah, even to be a tourist part on the tour.
You're waiting. So to try and get out of that fucking White House, I don't think so. Realistically, obviously. So, but I liked the fact that they poked fun at the extreme nature of conspiracy theorists, but also at the same time, they still actually did present some good questions that still linger today that not all of them are answered. At least maybe we have differing answers, right? Because I've seen one engineer say one thing and I've seen another engineer say another thing. So it's just like, all right, I guess I got to try and find the answer in the middle there. The truth somewhere, right? Lies in between it. So that's kind of like where we're at now. I hate to use the term people are conspiracy theorists this day, though. I think it's just more like people are truth seekers, you might call them. But hopefully when they find that answer, they'll accept it and not just think that they've created their own resolution in their head. And if they don't find the supporting evidence to back up their claim, they're going to continue to find it. You know what I mean? Like some people are willing to accept the truth. They're only willing to accept the truth if it fits their narrative and their belief. But overall, I like this episode. Thought it was a funny episode. What'd you think, Joe?
It was definitely a funny episode. It was, like I said, very relatable because I had an incident like this in school, much like Trey. I had an incident like this right around the same time this episode was a thing when I was in A school for the Navy, I believe.
So what you're telling me is somebody watched an episode of South Park and still an idea.
Probably.
Right.
Like more than likely that's where they got it. But and then for them to find a somewhat feasible way to tie it all into 9/11 and everything, and have Cartman blaming Kyle, and it hits on so many classic South Park tropes and does it in a way that seems fresh and everything, and just they do so many different things here and pull it off so well where it doesn't feel like they tried to shove 2 episodes worth of jokes into one like they have in the past. They were able to cohesively link all these stories and have it make sense, and it was fun. It was consistently funny throughout. If you remember the Hardy Boys and we're watching this episode, this is a great friggin' parody of them, and it's not by any means one of the greatest episodes of all time, but it is a very solid B in that everything it does, they do well.
Well, the reason why this episode stands the test of time is this episode, of course, introduces another phrase used by South Park fans. Oh, I'm getting such a raging clue.
Raging clue.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, though, that's going to do it. We finally got through it. Another edition.
Suck my balls.
Check my balls.
Suck my balls.
A South Park
Suck my
review.
balls.
Hopefully we edited this
Suck
up
my
so it
balls.
stayed below an hour so you don't get bored with the episode. As we went on a lot of tangents in regards to our personal feelings. But ladies and gentlemen, you listen to this episode each and every week to get your South Park fix. Of course, I'm your host in the heat and I can't be beat. I'm your guy who's high where the air is dry, your boy MSG. Follow us at linktr.ee/SouthParkPod. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at SuckMyBallsPod and on Facebook at South Park Pod. Check us out, YouTube. We're growing. Subscriber rates up. Thousands of new views. Our watch time's up. New subscribers. We finally made over 100 subscribers, which means we unlocked the community feature. We can actually make posts now on YouTube. It's kind of crazy. We can make polls. We can make posts. We can communicate with you now because you subscribe to our channel there as well. So we appreciate you, the listener. Leave a 5-star review in the form of a Gerald Brofowski Yelp on any of your favorite podcast platforms. Of course, shout out to the Mac Daddy OG, the S, the C, the double OP. Shout out to him. And of course, shout out, ladies and gentlemen, this man, as I've mentioned at the beginning of the show, is the 2022 Red Rocks Day 1 Trivia God. Joe Vernal. Joe, what's going on in your world?
Okay, November 5th, if you're in Colorado, no matter what part of the state you're in, you've got some wrestling coming up. If you are in NoCo, head down to Greeley Battleground Pro Wrestling, November Pain at the Greeley Rec Center. If you are in Denver, head over to Mile High Comics in downtown Denver, the world's largest comic book shop for new era wrestling. And if you are down in the Springs on November 5th, head on down to Sunshine Studios Live for Colorado Springs Wrestling. November 20th, 5 Points, Roxy Theater, Primo's Premier Pro Wrestling. You can get those tickets right now at theroxydenver.com. And Saturday, December 3rd, if you are in Salt Lake City, Utah, Devotion Championship Wrestling 4th anniversary show featuring Eazy-E himself, Eric Bischoff, and the People's Champion. Well, if you were in WCW, he was the People's Champion, Diamond Dallas Page.
Bang.
And the host of others. Bang. You can feel the bang. If you want tickets to that, head on over to eventbrite.com. Say you're in the Salt Lake City area when it asks for a geotag. Find your tickets that way. And that is all I have to plug right now.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as they say, Diamond upside down as a pussy. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back again next week for another edition of Suck My Balls. What are we doing next week? Is it Hell on Earth 2000?
Is it? It might be. I believe so. Now I have to check.
No, next week is Miss Teacher Bangs a Boy.
Teacher Bangs a Boy. Oh my God.
What about this?
So
what about Milan? We'll be back next, ladies and gentlemen, for another edition of Suck My Balls. Peace.